What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown, and today will be the start of a new video series, a weekly video series over the next month, where we will be taking a deep dive into certain teams around the NBA that the Blazers could be linked to this summer, maybe even on draft night. And we're picking these teams based on players that have been linked to Portland. So I'll give you a chance to pause the video right now and guess the team, even though it might be in the title. It's the Nets. Okay, we're talking about the Nets today. We're going to be talking about the Brooklyn Nets more specifically. We're going to look at Mikal Bridges, look at that situation. We're going to dive into maybe the cap a little bit, maybe potential trades. Obviously, the Nets got swept by the Sixers, and the Nets are in an interesting position, and we'll get into that a little bit. First off, hi, Cole. How are you? Go ahead.
Doing well. I think the Nets are an interesting trade partner for the Blazers, and there's rumors from both sides. Nets fans think they could possibly get Damian Lillard. We will do our due diligence and talk about it all. But it's not just Mikal Bridges. There's other players that could be on the move. But yeah, the Nets are in an interesting spot. Just the fact that they don't have that. Like, you could argue Mikal could be a centerpiece of a rebuild, but do we really think he can end up being the best player on a championship team? So there could be some trading and just moving parts going on in Brooklyn, and we'll see if the Blazers can kind of dive in on that. Brooklyn obviously got knocked out by the Sixers, who are currently in the playoffs right now. And you can go to MyBookie if you want to bet on the Sixers to win against the Celtics. It's currently 1-1 during this recording.
They
But
smoked him
obviously,
last night.
the NBA playoffs, they've been in full swing. They are in full swing for the upcoming month and into June. And you can bet on those games and make some money with MyBookie. If you're asking yourself, why would you choose MyBookie over the competition? It's simple. They give you the best bang for your buck. We even have Cody, one of our podcast hosts. He's on MyBookie now, and he made a little money last night on the Celtics, or was it 2 nights ago? On the Celtics -4.5 in the first half.
Last night.
If you weren't watching the podcast, you would have missed that. But if you were watching the podcast, you could have gone in and got that in and made a little money. If you want to sign up today and bet with house money. You can use promo code RIPCITY. That is
Rip City.
RIPCITY to grab yourself a welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that is promo code RIPCITY to grab yourself some extra funds, redeemable all the way up to $1,000. The link is down below the top comment. It's going to be a pinned comment. And you can also just search mybookie.com/RipCity if you want to get on the
Good
action.
stuff.
So go get on the action and let's talk about the Nets.
All right, let's talk about the Nets. Let's talk about first just their roster construction. Clearly, from a Nets perspective, this is not a finished roster at all. They're kind of walking a line between, do we go rebuild or do we try to do something similar to a few years ago where we all of a sudden out of nowhere signed Kyrie, got KD, got James Harden. They're kind of in that in-betweener spot right now, and they'll clearly do something because the worst place to be in the NBA is mediocre.
I mean,
Right
what the
now,
Blazers
this
are in right now, which is why they will
crew,
do something.
which is why this could be a good pairing, a good trade. These two could be good trading partners. Um, Obviously, let's just start at the top here. You can see Ben Simmons, 35 million. That's a lot of money. You can move that and get, that. I guess I'm trying to say is you can get good players for 35 million. Like that's a good number. But are you touching Ben Simmons?
I think that Nets fans are trying to compare Ben Simmons to what Russell Westbrook was with the Lakers and say, hey, the way they traded Westbrook in one first round pick and were able to bring back, what was it, like Russell, Vanderbilt, and Beasley. But the kicker is Ben Simmons has 3 years left on his deal. And who wants to have 3 years left? Russell Westbrook, he's off the whoever
Expiring.
ended he was an expiring contract. I see no world where unless you're attaching some major draft capital or one of your key pieces in a Mikal Bridges, I don't see a world where Ben Simmons is getting traded. And for those that, let's just touch on the subject to start. Damian Lillard is not getting traded to the Nets. And
No.
if in any world he was, it would be including Mikal Bridges in that deal. It's not a Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas. For those saying Cam Thomas has a lot of trade value, I can't say he
No, he
does when he
doesn't.
didn't crack the rotation once in the playoffs. I don't care if he
No.
dropped 40 two times in a row. He is the definition of an orange cone. So
Yeah,
let's just
I
get
agree.
that out the way.
Yeah. I think when you look at this Nets roster, if you're the Blazers, it's Mikal Bridges.
Yep.
Um, that would be the centerpiece. He's making 20 mil. He's got 4 years left on his deal. He is a cornerstone type player for the Dame for these last 3 years of a Dame run, 3-4 years of a Dame run. If you're Portland, what are you looking to give up here, Cole, for Mikal?
If I'm Portland, if you just look at the money initially, it's Anthony Simons for Mikal Bridges straight up when it comes to player wise. So I'm assuming, can you test that? I'm assuming that would work.
Yeah,
Um,
I can
when
give
it
it a
comes
test.
and draft capital's obviously not in the trade machine. So I think it would be something like a Simons and a lottery pick this year. It's saying
Can I
Portland.
say something?
Yeah,
Do you think, just looking at Hollinger's analysis, you think
I don't take
Nets
that into
gain
account
five
at
wins and
all.
we lose 4 wins?
I don't
Please.
take that into account at all.
That's
Now, I do
dumb.
think Anthony Simons could believe it or not, be a better player on this type of Nets team because I think he's a guy that can go out and score more points than Mikal Bridges, and that's kind of if you're going to be the best scorer on this team, like Simons could go to the Nets and average 26. So
Right.
I do think I think that Simons has a little less trade value than Bridges, even though he's a little younger and he's got more of a scoring potential, but the premium of a 3 and D wing like Mikal
He's
Bridges
one of the
is
better
more
ones.
valuable. So I think that you could see a Simons and a pick for Bridges, and I think that could be enough, especially if it's a high lottery pick.
Yeah, I think say we get the say we get the number 5 pick. Are you dealing that for Mikal?
I'm comfortable dealing that for Mikal. Now, here's where I want to see. I don't even know if this works. This is where I think we do the little playing around.
Okay.
You
What
could
do you want?
argue that, say, we get the third pick, and that's a
Okay.
very valuable pick. Simons in the third pick is too much for Mikal Bridges. So what if you say you throw in a Nicholas Claxton and you're
Got
giving
you.
back, say, like would Nurkic work in a scenario? I don't think it would.
I
Maybe they
don't
have enough
think it
money.
would.
It
No.
wouldn't. That was my guess. I was gonna say more of a Nasir Little. You give them two of your young pieces. They give you, and you're, yeah, I would assume maybe that works. Now, picks would go on the Blazers side. Obviously, the Blazers are trading one, maybe two, maybe three picks. And that's where you
Hmm.
get into the gauge of what are you comfortable with. But if you're a Blazer fan and you can walk out of here getting Nicholas Claxton and Mikal Bridges, I know that's a crazy thing for Nets fans to stomach, but if you're going into a full rebuild, you want to get that lottery pick that could be the future of your team, and then Simons, who as well could easily be the future of your team. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I do want to point out one thing about this trade that makes me think it wouldn't happen is the Nets don't really need right now is forwards, 3 and 4s.
That's fair.
Um, Obviously this works. This would be now again, just so people know we're not being stupid. NBA trade machine doesn't account into picks. You would be giving up your lot. Blazers would be giving up their lottery pick this year, probably future first as well,
Yeah.
first or firsts. I don't know what the market is there, but if you just look at, sorry, I went all the way.
Yeah.
Um, if you
When it
just
comes to the big,
go ahead.
I just don't know what big would gauge enough trade value from the Blazers for them to. Now, the kicker in all this is like, if I'm the Nets and I'm trying to hardball it, if I'm giving up Bridges and Claxton, I want Simons and Sharp just to get us. But like, there's no world where the Blazers are doing that
Yeah,
now,
you say no there.
and I don't even think Sharp can get traded in this scenario because the money, unless you're throwing him next to Simons. Like the Blazers aren't trading both of them this offseason.
Yeah, I agree.
90% positive. So
Um,
I don't think there's a scenario where Sharp ends up in Brooklyn.
yeah. Outside of Mikhail, because he's the guy that we're looking at.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else on this roster that interests you at all? I know Claxton does.
Obviously, like Cam Johnson would, but he's a free agent this year. So unless you're doing like a sign and trade, you couldn't get him. Finney Smith, I think Finney Smith could be an interesting guy. Say the Nets don't want to completely blow it up. They still obviously have to do something, and they need to get rid of a couple of those forwards. So say
How about this? What do you think of Finney Smith and Claxton deal look like?
Finney Smith and Claxton. I think
For
that,
like, you
that's
obviously
interesting.
probably have to send back Nurk.
I think you're sending back Nurk. You give them their center, and then, oh, that's interesting because I think this is
He,
where that lottery pick is like the centerpiece of the deal. Like,
yeah,
but if you're the Blazers, you're not sending your lottery pick for Claxton and Finney
exactly.
Smith.
That's why
Does
I
my
think
Yeah. Oof.
if we're doing business with the Nets, it's a McHale or bust here.
I would think so as well, because you're not looking for Dinwiddie. I mean, you could argue they just like a Finney Smith for like would a Finney Smith for Nurk straight up work? I know that's
It,
like in a I know that's not a I'm just like maybe the Nets make more trades, Claxton goes to a different team. I do think, yeah, you're right. The one scenario of business is a Mikal Bridges trade.
yeah, it's interesting when you look at it. At the end of the day, I think that the Blazers um need to look at if Mikhail is available, which he might not even be available. The Nets might like him that
Yeah.
much. I think if you are the Nets, you would want to look towards moving him because you can get like
You have to
draft
argue
capital, young picks.
his value's at an all-time high right now. He just
Right,
averaged
right.
26. And
Yes.
might do that
What's
again,
the
might not.
this might be hard for you to answer, but what do you think the cutoff is? And what I mean by this for picks, and what I mean by this is like you wouldn't trade the third pick for Mikhail, but you might trade the fourth, or you might trade the like. Where does that line fall for you?
That's really hard because it's so hard to know given you just don't know what the value of like how much the Nets value. If they're hardballing and saying we will trade him if it's the third pick, we will not trade him if it's a fourth pick, then you're like, oh, I might be willing to give up that third pick. But I would say my line is like Simons and 4 and down because I think that obviously you're keeping Wemby if you have the one pick. The 2 and
The top
3
three
are
just can get you that next level.
that's like where you move on to say Siakam. But then again, like does Bridges just average 26? So some could argue he has the potential to be a Siakam. So
Yeah, he's a weird
it,
player because
it's
he's
just
never.
like
This was his first like half year being a number one option, and he wouldn't be a number one in Portland. He'd be the two,
yeah.
maybe three. It depends on
Like
what Jeremy's looking like offensively.
is it fluky? Is it like that you get
That's the
like
risk, man.
fluky's a tough word. Like obviously he will still be, I would say, an 18 to 22 point per game scorer, but I don't think he's averaging 26 anywhere else. So
Yeah, that's the the risk reward of trading is, are you buying someone? Are you investing in someone at an all time high? And if you're the Nets, this is what doing good business is. If you're the Nets, you would probably look to cash in now because Mikhail, as good as he is, he doesn't have the track record of doing that because he's never been in this role. So that's also another thing. He's never been a number one. He just passed this first test with flying colors, no track record, but obviously the defensive side of the ball is gonna that is what it's gonna be. Like it's
mhm.
elite. His shooting is elite for a 3-and-D, and in Portland, I don't think you're asking him to have to score 26 a game. So I think the Blazers should take a deep, deep dive and a deep look into Mikhail. And obviously, these videos are all speculative right now because
Mhm.
the key for
Pick.
everything is where the pick's going to be, and that's going to come at the draft lottery. So, well, that was fun. Way to dive into the Nets with me.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm actually not going to tell you who we're going to do next week.
Yeah.
Keep it a surprise,
Subject to
but
change because some series
true.
might be
It
ending.
depends who gets. I'll say this: the team we're going to do next week is still in the playoffs.
Unless that series is going like 6 or 7 and they're both still in.
Yeah, which then maybe we can do like a joint
Yeah.
talk about like whoever loses that game seven.
If you
But
guessed it, drop it in the comments.
okay, all right, you're yeah, sounds good. Okay, we will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, and yeah, draft lottery is soon. Season is a long ways away, but draft lottery and draft is kind of next up on the schedule for Blazer fans. So we're getting ready for that. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Dude, you're like lagging absurdly bad.
I know it's on the